guys are all doing like Christmassy stuff. Should I kind of do?
Hello, welcome to the show. See, if I'm going to be allowed to open the show, you guys, I'm going to do like this backstage feel. Farzana opens with this hello, right? And I can't do that. So I'm going to open with this backstage feel, and we were fussing over Christmas things that we've got. David, you're wearing your smoking jacket today.
I certainly am. It's my once a year opportunity to don my Christmas apparel.
I found my elf hat, but it doesn't fit my giant head. Farzana, you're in Sri Lanka, so you can be forgiven that I don't think you have any holiday stuff with you right now.
I don't, but you know what? Colombo in Sri Lanka is just full on Christmas. You cannot swing a cat without bumping into an elf or a, tinsel. I mean, Colombo does Christmas like I haven't seen anywhere.
Wow.
It's extraordinary.
It wasn't Christmas, but we were there the day after in Sydney, Australia. And the idea of being in a warm place over Christmas, totally different.
Oh, I
feel.
love it.
Hello and welcome to the week Unspun. So glad you're spending this part of your Friday, whether it's a Friday morning, your coffee, probably your second coffee of the day, or Friday afternoon in the UK, your second beer of the day by 3:00. You're on to the second pint. I'm Doug Downs. I'm joining you from Canada's Rocky Mountains.
I'm David Gallagher, joining you from sunny blue sky, London.
And my name is Farzana, and I am joining from the beautiful island of Sri Lanka.
You've been there a long time, and we'll look forward to hearing a little bit more about it in the show. But we want to get right into it. We are literally steaming into the festive season, but of course the news never stops. As usual, we've been looking at the headlines, debating what we thought we would try to discuss, if possible, from a PR lens. And there's been no shortage of conversation this week. The news never stops. We're hoping to hear from you as well. So if you're joining us live on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, or YouTube, I think all those platforms support direct comments. So please feel free to add them, and we'll bring them into the conversation. Now, just for a quick outline of the show today, I was really hoping that maybe for once we could avoid talking about the U.S. president or Donald or what's going on in the White House. But of course, that's not the case. It's been a chaotic, crazy week in Washington. So we're going to get some of that out of the way first with actually a couple of different stories that we think have some PR analysis opportunities. Doug's going to take us there. Farzana noted a conversation between Sir Martin Sorrell and a woman named Sarah Waddington, who leads the UK PR Trade Association, about whether PR is dead or not. So we'll have a conversation about that. And then we've got to look ahead at a special episode of the Stories and Strategies podcast set, I believe, in 2035. So we'll have a sneak preview of that. But Doug, once again, you've got the lead story. So take us to DC if you would.
That's another steak that you owe me. I was in the grocery store and I was picking up my weekly Vanity Fair magazine, of course, which I do all the time. This Susie Wiles interview, oh my goodness. Susie Wiles, you probably know her. She's President Trump's chief of staff. She gave a series of interviews to Vanity Fair magazine, offering rare, candid insight into the inner workings of Trump's circle. What a photo this turned out to be. Across those conversations, she spoke openly about Trump's personality and leadership style, as well as about internal dynamics involving other political figures and advisors. She was dishing. In describing Trump, she said he has an alcoholic's personality, explaining that he does not drink, but displays an all-consuming intensity and belief that he can handle anything. I don't know who did that graphic. Wiles also commented on other figures in Trump's orbit, including Vice President J.D. Vance, whom she described as having once been a conspiracy theorist. Once published those remarks, Vanity Fair drew widespread attention, with critics and supporters alike debating not only what she said, but whether such candor was appropriate. So here are the 8 things that I saw. Number 1, she was treating a long-form media interview like a relationship interview, and that is a mistake. Number 2 mistake that I saw from Susie Wiles, and I'm coming at this from 25 years of media training. She did exceptionally weak, if any, media or audience analysis. It was never clear who she was trying to reach, and without a defined audience, even thoughtful explanations tend to drift. It's like writing a love letter to whom it may concern. You got to do audience analysis. No message map or structure. That was mistake number 3. This is an example of a message map. You have your issue, your narrative, your set of key messages guiding your answers, and then supporting facts that all line up. So you're always hitting that one narrative all the time. Number 4, sound bites without control. Oh, she spoke memorably, all right, but she had no control over what sound bites were going to land. She was just kind of speaking and winging it. You've got to go into it with a bit of structure, particularly if you're going to offer sound bites. Mistake number 5, ignoring a very common idea. Well, look at how I developed that graphic with the extraneous piece. Ignoring pause, answer, stop. Pause before giving your answer. Answer the question, and then stop talking. She blurred the line between values, attitudes, and opinions as well. At the apex, values are things that tend not to move. If we speak to values, they're generally agreeable. Children, safety, healthcare, quality of life. Those are values we can agree on. Opinions are at the very bottom and they're very flimsy. And then attitudes are more directional, sometimes funneling down into opinion or funneling up into values. Mistake number 7, she confused candor with wandering. Look, keep it real in a media interview. Be candid, be authentic, and be prepared. Her lack of structure caused honest reflections to drift into unfinished thoughts. And mistake number 8, structural role confusion. This one's a bit subtle. She shifted between being the insider, the interpreter, and the narrator without clearly defining her role in these interviews. That created a subtle tension that audiences sense immediately in long form media. So David Farzana, those are the 8 structural things as a longtime media trainer that I pulled from the interview. Nonpartisan, those are the mistakes that I saw. What did you see?
Well, I wouldn't quibble with any of them. I do want to acknowledge my friend and colleague, Georg Schmidt's very astute observation on my jacket. So thank you, Georg, for that. I think the overarching issue I had with this 11 interviews that she sat down for over the past few months was I really don't know what the purpose was. I don't know why you spend that kind of time and capital cultivating a story that seems to have, at best, no purpose, and at worst, some potentially damaging messages, not necessarily for the president. I'm guessing he was probably okay with how he was portrayed, but she really took some shots at her colleagues on the cabinet. So I just don't really understand the point to it. I know she didn't control the timing of it and probably didn't know how busy a week it would be, but I just don't understand the point. And Doug, to your point, just how she failed to control the interviews. There were 11 of them. I mean, have you ever prepared anybody for 11 conversations and had any hope that there would be any prediction about how that story would turn out?
Yes, I have. And yes, we did. Absolutely. When you've got an ongoing series of attacks on a corporation, you prepare your CEO for constant media attention.
Yeah. It's just over a conversation over 11 iterations is bound to cover a lot of ground that you're not comfortable with. The other thing I would observe just from that piece was the photo shoot, which so there are
the photo.
Well, the photos, all the participants were profiled. My understanding is that these are, senior people in the government. The core engine room of the United States government took a day out of their schedule to do hair and makeup and sit for these photographs. So that's not a political statement. That's just kind of a questionable use of time. And then to be, really surprised at the output just felt like another added own goal into what I consider to be a pretty disastrous use of PR capital. Do you think the photo shoot and the criticisms about it, does it overshadow the editorial coverage? Does it suggest that this was a hit job? That's sort of the things I've been hearing from some of the critics. But what's your take on that?
For me, hit job is too strong a terminology. I don't think Vanity Fair was ever going to be fair or in any way complimentary. My issue is you've got to go into the set of interviews understanding that. Part of the triage of doing any set of media interviews or a single interview is understand, what does the reporter already think? What are their already pre-made conclusions? Now, what are my goals and how do I strategically develop my narrative and place my messages that align with all of those things. That's just media jujitsu, and they didn't do that here. Not a hit job. Certainly didn't go out of its way to build anything for the Trump administration. But yeah, she gave them lots to work with.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
certainly did. Sorry, Farzana.
I totally agree. I don't understand why they did it. For so long, the rhetoric from the camp has been, fake news, and they seem to do rather well with sort of more long form narratives, such as podcasts, where they can contextualize their comments. And what I don't understand is, why did they deviate from what actually has worked quite well for them in terms of direct sort of social media content, direct speeches and sort of podcasts if they were to get interviewed. So I don't understand why they decided to take that risk and go with the Vanity Fair interview. So I don't get the thinking behind it. I don't understand it. Was it Vanity? Or was it Vanity?
The name's in the title, right? And I do think that despite kind of a drumbeat complaining against the elite mainstream media, there are within that cabinet, a number of people who really do crave that kind of attention and validation. And that's the only reason I could think you would look at this and say, yeah, this seems like a good idea. Otherwise, I think you probably would have spent your time doing other things. Now, just to maybe switch a little bit, and Doug, we can probably come back to both the interview and the photo shoot if you like. But it was a crazy week. And I was thinking about this because, we start talking about this on Monday, like what's the news going to be? And there was the horrific shootings in Australia, and then I guess a little bit before that in Rhode Island and in the U.S. That's not a White House necessarily question or issue. But that's how the week started. Then there was the murder of entertainment star Rob Reiner and his wife by his son, followed by a pretty horrific post on Truth Social by President Trump on that. So the week started off really from a really negative. A big hole for the White House to dig out of. They couldn't control the timing of the Vanity Fair piece, but they did decide to break into live coverage of the season finale of Survivor on Wednesday night in the U.S. with the presidential address. And I remember a handful of those from my time living in the U.S. Those are reserved for declarations of war. I think W. Bush did that in the second Iraq War. For big moments of national mourning and healing. I think Reagan did it after the Challenger disaster, but they're really not used for what amounts to kind of a political speech. So I can't imagine, again, the decision-making process to break into live coverage with an 18-minute high-speed political speech that basically says things are better than you think they are, and if you don't like them, you should blame Biden. That was sort of the Trump 18 minutes, and he's been panned. I was really trying to be more balanced than you might think I usually am about these things, to find a positive review. But the FT said he was combative. The Telegraph, again, that's not a critical source, said he was unusually wooden. CNN said it was the nightmare before Christmas. So again, and maybe this is just sort of a second look at the earlier interview, but what's your take? Why would you do that? If you're sitting in the White House communications room, why would you? Oh yeah, sorry, Governor Newsom from California basically said this could have been an email, and I think that was probably a lot of people's summary. But I don't know if you've got to take, Doug or Farzana, if there's a reason to do this that escapes me. If there was some way that maybe he has shifted the narrative, what's your view on why you would do this and what sort of impact it might have?
Go ahead.
I mean, again, first you have the Vanity Fair, then you have this. I don't understand the strategic thinking behind it. I just, unless it's just distraction, sort of comms, don't really get it.
I think he did try. I think the idea was to reshift a narrative. He's looking at his own opinion polls, ignoring the fact that opinion polls for the Democratic Party are horribly low, right? Astonishingly low right now for support for the Dems, but didn't pull it off. And probably because he was rushed. For him, 18 minutes is a tight time frame. He wants 3 hours to explain his points, which he doesn't need. But he does better in long form. Somebody seemed to have written the entire speech on the teleprompter in all caps because he was shouting at me the whole time. Don't write the speech in all caps. The most interesting part for me was the media diagnosis afterward. I made a point of watching MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News, which I would suggest come at it from different, each one comes at it from different perspectives. And they landed succinctly on the idea that the economy will be the driving force of the midterms next year, that is the issue. CNN begrudgingly acknowledged that the crime rate is probably not the issue. Fox saying the crime rate is down generally across the US. I'm sure that folks could debate that to the cows come home, depends on how you look at it, but they did land on the economy. To be fair, on that evening, Wednesday night, inflation rate was at 3%. So CNN and MSNBC were full of, this is disastrous because the economy is the main argument, and the economy is worse. The economy is terrible. It's the same as when Biden left. It's not down. And the next morning, a refreshed inflation rate was released, and it's down at 2.7%. So at least one tick in the right direction, but it's gone there in months previous and gone back to 3%. So I found it interesting that we're setting up for the all-important midterms next year, and that, not that the economy isn't always an issue, but how Americans feel about the economy will be such a key electoral point. And that seemed to be the woven narrative.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with any of that. I do think that when you have a business problem, you can't solve it with a PR solution. That's the general message I would draw from this. And right now, his administration has a business problem. Most markers for most Americans' experience with the economy aren't going in the right direction. They're certainly not going in the direction that he said they would go from day one. So people are frustrated. So his message seemed to be patient. Things will turn around next year. You'll see that my gambles will pay off. And I think that's asking a lot for people who are already quite frustrated. And I think he's possibly making the same mistake that Joe Biden made. And that's like, oh, you're not reading the data correctly. You're not giving us credit for the things that are moving in the right direction. Those stats are not matching people's vibes. And I think it was, yeah. So I think it, again, was a missed opportunity. And I think you don't interrupt someone's viewing, primetime viewing to make a speech that they didn't ask for, especially if you don't have any news to give them. I don't think it'll do much damage. I think that it will probably be forgotten before we head into to the festive celebrations.
Thank God there wasn't a football game on. That could have been quite problematic.
That could have come back to bite him. So it smells a little desperate, but we'll see. And next week's a new week, maybe closer to home in the PR community. Farzana, you'd mentioned this conversation that Sir Martin Sorrell had. He was the founder and creator of WPP until he left to start something new, but he's still still finding a way to make headlines. And he had a conversation on UK radio with Sarah Waddington, who chairs the PRCA, the UK PR Trade Association, about whether or not PR was dead. And you spotted that, and thanks for bringing it to my attention. And Doug's probably not reading these things as closely in Canada as we are, but what's your take? And I know you've got a kind of a high-level view as the president-elect for CIPR as well.
Well, it's bad enough trying to navigate jet lag, waking up in Sri Lanka. And I wake up and I love PR Week because it really keeps you kind of like in the know about what's happening in the industry. And I wake up and I see, this headline. I don't know if you can see it. Martin Sorrell, there's no such thing as PR anymore. That's not what I want to read in the morning when I'm feeling jet lag. So the WPP founder, Sir Martin Sorrell, has declared the death of PR during a debate on BBC Radio 4's Today programme with the PRCA chief executive, Sarah Waddington. And this was an extraordinary interview. Now, I don't know if I can access BBC here in Sri Lanka, but as soon as I go back to the UK, the first thing I want to do is listen to that story. And I would ask, those who are in the UK, please do listen to it. It's on Radio 4. Now, what happened is that he said there's no such thing as PR, arguing that the discipline has morphed into online content and social media. And according to him, it is, it's morphed, it's creating content at scale, personalizing, visualization, and copywriting at huge scale is becoming more and more important. Now, Sarah, for those who know Sarah Waddington, I'm so glad she was there for, batting, and sort of being in our corner. So she argued that storytelling has always been at the heart of public relations. And she said PR remains vital in helping organizations communicate who they are, what they stand for, and why people should care. And, so the question is PR dead, or has it just changed its name? Now, this made me feel quite furious, actually, because people are going to listen to Martin Sorrell because he is extraordinarily successful, albeit perhaps not as successful recently, and his words are going to carry weight. And of course, it's that age-old issue that as PRs, are we not doing a good job in terms of doing PR for our industry? And forget the public not knowing what we do, and potentially sort of clients and sort of C-suite stakeholders. Now it appears that our marketing and advertising sort of brothers and sisters have no idea what we do. And it's that sort of constant putting us in this box that we are just media relations people. And of course, as the CIPR states, PR is the strategic management of information that flows between an organization and its publics. It doesn't say media relations. Media relations is just one of multiple channels in the tactical realm. And of course, there's layers of the strategy as well as, the tactics. And so it is infuriating. I'm glad Sarah gave him what for. But I wanted to bring you in, Doug, with your thoughts, because I know probably storming a teacup from your perspective across the pond, but it's making waves here in the UK.
Well, as a North American, I still have an opinion, even if I don't fully understand who he is. I think he's being a provocateur, and we just talked about Susie Wiles not having a narrative or a particular emotional stance that was strategic that she wanted to put out. But in this case, he did have a narrative, and he certainly evoked an emotional reaction with the headline. So from a public relations standpoint, well done, Sir Martin Sorrells. You're a wonderful PR practitioner that way. I think he's just trying to be provocative here. Either that or he's stupid and he doesn't understand what relating to the public actually means. And I don't think that's the case at all. But there is underlying this, there's something to this, right? One of the biggest problems for us in PR, Farzana, you and I have talked about this on the podcast, Stories and Strategies. It's I could never explain to my mom what I do for a living. And it's my job to explain the difficult to explain in a short, concise, and memorable way. It's my job to land messages, not just we still can't explain to our moms what we do. And that's a problem. If we can't define it, then how are others supposed to define it?
Well, in essence, we're about earning trust. And, Cyril also went on to say, because, Sarah retorted and said, well, the media is becoming increasingly fragmented. The role of PRs is increasingly important. And then he responded and said, the media is not becoming fragmented. So I don't know whether he was just being a contrarian and just looking to rile up the PR industry. But, of course, there is a gap between what the PR industry should be doing and what the reality is, but that reality is shifting. So of course for many decades we have been relegated to media relations, but saying that, since the rise of stakeholder capitalism, there's multiple stakeholders that an organization needs to seek license and legitimacy to operate from, and you couple that with the fragmentation of media. I don't care what Sir Martin Sorrell says, who, may I add, hasn't been doing particularly well with his company in the last couple of years. And maybe there's a direct connection between that and his ability for critical thinking. But over to you, David. What do you think? Don't tell me you agree with him. I'm going to...
I haven't seen you this riled up ever.
I find it so irritating, and I'm so glad that he had Sarah, who really went for him.
Too.
So well done, Sarah.
I'm going to go where I'm going to go very cautiously. And I have been on panels with him before. He is provocative. He doesn't mind picking a fight. In some ways, he was kind of making his own point, really, in that he's being discussed right now. And maybe that is how he sees public relations. So I acknowledge all that. And I thought Sarah did an excellent job rebutting him and flying the flag for the industry. Here's where I'm going to maybe be a little controversial. I think he has a point in that PR as a marketing discipline is losing ground. And I think we are losing ground. And I think we've probably never been on as firm a territory as we would like. There's always been this schism in the PR world between those who see this as a sales and marketing function, basically at heart to drive purchase or intent to purchase, and those who see it in a different light, building organizational value, creating trust with stakeholders, helping to create a license to operate through consent and collaboration with stakeholders. I think both of those things are true, but I think most of the money has been on the marketing side. That's how the holding companies came into existence. That's how investment has flowed in. It's how a lot of the client money has been spent. So he is raising a question that I think we could do a little better job of answering. It's probably not going to be on a 3-minute interview on a live radio show, but I think this is something we need to take seriously as people who are committed to the PR community, whether it's an industry or a profession. And I think we do need to see that the way things are changing, the way the media landscape is changing, whether it's fragmenting or consolidating, the way algorithms are driving what we see, the way people have less trust in expertise or institutions than they used to, is changing things really quickly. And I think we need to adapt to those changes and make sure that our role is understood by us, much less, even before we get to trying to make our parents or other people understand it. And I don't think we've done a great job of doing that.
That's true. And David, before you move on to the next story, I just wanted to add one final thing. A couple of days ago in Colombo, I went to go and deliver a talk with the PR Association in Sri Lanka, which, may I add, has just recently set up around 18 months ago, because they realized that marketing and advertising had their own, and they understood that PR is distinct, and therefore set up their PR association. So PR is not dead. It is actually reaching, in my opinion, the golden era for PR. And I think Martin Sorrell's formative years when we were the poor cousins is a very different time to what is coming for us. And I think our time is going to be, it's going to be now, actually. So I think,
Farzana, you and I had a debate episode we did on the Stories and Strategies podcast. Is June
the
17th.
one that I won. Yeah, I remember.
No, I think sadly I won. So Farzana took the percent. Is June 17th, episode 182, and we debated: is PR a separate function, or is it just part of the marketing team? And Farzana took the role of, dang right, it's a separate function. Get out of here, marketing people. And I took the perspective of, no, it's all just marketing, with a little bit of, it's for the point of the rhetoric. But sadly, we sort of decided that I did come out ahead in that debate. And we have another debate episode coming up on Tuesday.
Well, maybe you can take us to 2035, Doug. I know that. Tell us a little about this special episode and I have to, disclosure. I'm part of this as well. You cast me in a role here, but tell us about this episode that's coming out. Maybe show us a little bit about what we can expect.
I'll set it up real quick. I feel like I'm on James Corbin. I'm setting up a movie clip. So we've done a really special episode, created some cinematic audio, so to speak, called sound design. And we're putting some animation to it that'll come in the new year. But there are lots of issues within PR. Describing what PR is one of them. But there are 3 chief issues when we look at it's AI and all the technologies and all the tools, and how PR is changing and will change over the next 10 years, just from all the different tools that are coming out under artificial intelligence. Then entry-level positions. So many of the things that students or young people used to do to get into PR and earn their chops and develop experience, those are being usurped by AI. So that's got to change. And then female leadership in industry, that 2/3 of the industry is made up of women, but only 1/3, depends on what study you read, 1/3 of the industry, the C-suite, is led by women, 2/3 by men. Those are the 3 issues we looked at. And how do you solve those? And instead of looking forward through, the crystal ball, Farzana and I traveled to the year 2035. And here's what it sounded like.
Sequence.
It sort of looked like.
Subjects, hold still.
There's always a hold still right before history happens.
And you always talk through it.
Farzana.
I see it. That smell. Metallic? Like the city itself is exhaling technology.
My glasses just pulsed. Did yours?
Yes, they're adjusting to whatever signals are embedded here. Could be environmental data or those layered messages I mentioned.
Great. So the future announces itself by flickering in my face. We're wearing these sort of meta glasses. We never use the term, and the branding and messaging is personalized within your glasses, and you see things on the screen. David is a part of it, plays the role of Gallagher, because there's another David Olajide is our guide into 2035, and Emily Page, one of our other producers, also plays a role in it as well. And that episode comes out not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after, so December 30th. And I think we're all just really excited about it.
It was a lot of fun, and I'll look forward to people's reactions to it. I am afraid that's all the time we have. This is my last time before I break for the festive break. So have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, or whatever you might be celebrating next week.
And Farzana and I are back next week on Boxing Day. We might go live to David from the buy and sell, wherever, when he's doing all of his shopping. As always, thanks for checking us out today. Thanks to superstar producers Emily Page and Solomon eBay. The Week Unspun's co-production of Folgate Advisors, Stories and Strategies Podcast, and Curzon Public Relations. You want to catch the recording, you can check it out. David's LinkedIn channel, I think Farzana's Instagram, her X, my personal X, Curzon's YouTube, the Stories and Strategies Podcast YouTube as well. And as always, one final thought. Remember, you are worthy of connection exactly as you are. So is everybody else. Have a great weekend.